Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the rare normal-type Pokemon Castform, the Weather Pokémon. Though they might not outwardly be among the strongest of Pokemon, Castform are fascinating creatures that can more than use the power of the weather to make their presence a nuisance in battle. In their standard form, these creatures have bulbous main bodies with a pair of electromagnetic organs in the form of two bulbous growths on the front of their form that allow them to float, with a small tail and a wisp of material coming off of their forehead, while their black eyes have a visor-like white marking on their flesh surrounding them. In their sunny form, these creatures have several more bulbous growths on the front of their body, and their main body color has changed to a dark red, their eye markings becoming a softer shade of yellow, and their head being surrounded by an orange container of superheated air, forming a series of 7 superheated air pockets around this covering. In their rainy form, the lower halves of these creatures bunch up into a lumpy, cloud-like form, and their main body changes to a dark blue color, their eye markings being light blue, as their heads are surrounded in a light blue teardrop-shaped covering of water. Lastly, in their snowy form, the head of these creatures turns a dark purple color, their eye markings being a lighter shade, and their entire form is covered in a cloud-like form of grayish-green chilled air, forming a halo-like swirl at the top of their form and a sharp spike on their lower ends. Castform are among the few Pokemon that are known to be of artificial creation, but they are also one of the most recent, being created within the last 20 years by the Weather Institute of the Hoenn region. These strange creatures are unique in that their bodies are mostly made up of water, more so than most, but are held together by an abnormal synthetic skin that contains their form and dictates the power they possess. Under normal temperature and humidity conditions, these creatures have a fairly basic form with few bells and whistles to it, but it is when the weather changes from these conditions that their true power is unleashed. These Pokemon were designed to be able to study the effects of climate change at the small scale against wild Pokemon and other forms of life, and because their cellular form, synthetic skin included, acts like water in response to changing environmental conditions, their very forms show true environmental change that occurs in their surroundings when things are altered. On the one hand, this means that these creatures, though normally limited to just basic tackle and headbutt attacks for physical offense, wield the natural powers of the 3 main types that determine its overall powers, namely the fire, water, and ice types, granting them access to moves like Fire Blast, Hydro Pump, and Blizzard, as well as a powerful Hurricane attack later in life, that no other Pokemon can learn naturally in that combination as a way of defending their otherwise small and weak bodies. In addition, this ties in with their specialty move, the Weather Ball attack, which, though normally a fairly weak move, can change type and have its base power doubled if there is an abnormal weather condition present, allowing Castform, as well as a scant few other Pokemon, to make it into a fairly powerful weapon in the right weather conditions. They need this power anyways, as their stats are fairly lackluster and are all below average for a fully evolved normal-type Pokemon, as well as the other types that they can take on, as will be discussed shortly. So without this versatility on their side, these creatures can't stand up against many larger threats. But with their specialty ability at hand, they more than have a fighting chance in the right circumstances. What truly makes Castform stand out from their contemporaries is their signature forecast ability. Because the bodies of these creatures are designed to change in response to varying temperature and humidity conditions, their entire forms will actually change in the presence of different weather conditions, as will their attitude, their behavior becoming rougher the rougher the weather around them is. When these creatures are exposed to intense sunlight and not just heat alone, they will transform into their sunny form, and their bodies will dry out, becoming painfully hot to the touch. In this state, these creatures become pure fire types, and while this can make them a severe hazard to deal with if one is trying to fight them with something weak to fire, they are generally quite upbeat and can be worked with, even if they do become a bit hot-headed in their transformation. If these creatures are exposed to rain, on the other hand, they will transform into their rainy form, becoming pure water types in the process. In this state, the bodies of these creatures become slippery to the touch, as their bodies retain the moisture they absorb from the air, being quite soft in form and so waterlogged that their bodies can actually be squeezed to remove some of this excess water if needed, and they can only retain this form if the humidity around them is quite high, so artificial sources of water will not have the same effect. Lastly, if these creatures are exposed to snow or hail, they will transform into their snowy form, in which they become pure ice types and their forms become frozen solid, snow clouds forming around their bodies. Their bodies become smooth and cold as ice in this state, dipping to a body temperature of 23 degrees Fahrenheit, as their skin freezes solid and their capacity to use cold as a weapon is increased dramatically, though ice is truly needed in the air to make this form work, and thus extreme cold alone is not enough to trigger this state. The fact that only natural sources of temperature and humidity change work to make them transform is of intentional design, to make it so they cannot be influenced by artificial changes to their local environment, thus enabling them to act as more reliable indicators of the changing environmental factors in the air around them. This as a whole makes Castform interesting creatures to work with, and grants them a degree of versatility that is unseen among other species of Pokémon. Versatile and unique in their forms and powers, Castform are intriguing creatures that continue to help science each and every day merely by existing, both in laboratories and in the wild. They might not have much in the way of severe power to offer, but they more than make up for it with a special ability that helps them to stand out and ultimately make them a force to be reckoned with in minor fights at the very least. If you're looking to add one of these rare beasties to your collection, make sure that you pay attention to the weather when searching. You might get lucky and stumble across one of them, but if you don't have the right team to take on whatever form they may have, they may likely leave you with a painful reminder of how dangerous nature can be when the weather itself is unleashed upon you at full force. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.